welcome everyone to episode 106 of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. And I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but it is the podcast that the Podcasting Weekly Journal said was compulsory viewing for compulsory meat beaters. I don't know if you read that little blurb about our show. And I am one of the hosts, Jared Hornbeck. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. And podcasting is just a challenge to my antisocial skill set. One of them. But no, I am not walking around this giant empty loft apartment alone. No, who is here with me?
Well, it's me, Steve Guntley, and I consider myself an expert on the male erogenous zones. This is the podcast all about goon caves, exploding feds, and Lord of the Cock Rings. That's because this is the podcast about Aimee the Visitor, an AI-driven horror flick that uses a lot of AI. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. And excitingly enough, for the first time ever, we actually don't have a guest. We have a visitor. Who is joining us here today, Jared?
Well, you know, Steve, if we're going to be talking about a movie and we're going to be focusing on an advanced, intimate model of euphoric entertainment, we need to bring in our very own advanced, intimate model of euphoric entertainment.
Of course, yeah.
And so I scoured the streets of New York City, and in the dirty, dingy corner of Rock Bar, I found Aimee Kuge, and she's an awesome filmmaker, New York horror person who I'm so thrilled to run into at super awesome events and stuff like that. She is the director of the film Cannibal Mukbang, which caused a big stir at Brooklyn Horror Fest in 2023, and also the producer of Scooter McRae's new movie Black Eyed Susan. We'll hear a little bit more about both of those, plus other awesome stuff that she's been working on. Aimee, what is up? Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me. So I was debating if I should talk in Aimee the Visitor's voice this whole time. Like if I should have shown up as the AI and spoke with that voice the whole time, but I can't do it. I'm not good at accents, so can't do that.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to leave because you need to commit to a bit or fuck off.
Okay. Well, my name is spelled the exact same way as hers, and I was born 20 years before this, or 20 years before. I was born a long time before this movie came out. So 30 years actually, turned 30 in 2023. So there you go. I think that's enough committing to the bit.
I think so. Mm-hmm. And we appreciate that you changed your name specifically for this episode, just to be a little bit more on theme.
And what I really appreciate, Aimee, is how you kept a lot of your face very still, but your mouth moved.
Yes.
It was really impressive.
It's an amazing trick.
I'm morphing into like an ogre, and I'm also morphing into like a secretary all at the same time.
Oh yeah,
a Link from Zelda in a few shots.
We need all of that. All right, I'm not going to do too many more bits on this. I promise. I will stop poking fun at the name. But we are very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us and for being willing to kind of take a gamble on this very silly, very recent Charles Band movie. Let's jump right into it. Aimee the Visitor was released September 29th, 2023. It's directed by Charles Band, written by Charles Band and Neil Marshall Stevens, and it stars Dallas Schaefer, Faith West, Felix Murbach, Tom Dacey Carr, Joe Kurak, Liz Jordan, and Lexi Lore. That is the entire cast, not counting the adorable little dog, R.I.P. All right, so this is a very recent episode, or a very recent movie, so we don't have a whole lot to go on research-wise. I can just tell you, and I've said this in a previous episode, I think it was on our Death Streamer episode, that Charles Band's early embrace of AI movies is making me very nervous because he has consistently, and we've seen it many times on the show, has consistently been like 5 or 6 years ahead of the curve. Like he's very innovative, but he's always like just a little too soon. So he had the first like video store in Los Angeles like 6 years before VHS blew up, all of this other stuff. And that makes me really upset that like he is paving new ground in this medium, because I think he's seen something in his crystal ball that this is going to be where the future of movies is going. And that makes me unhappy.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's a talking point. Like if nothing else, it's at least a conversation. It's like, what can, is there good? What can AI be used for? What are the drawbacks to using it? I mean, really, I think back to last year and I think about the conversations surrounding those little title cards from Late Night with the Devil and how much people were talking about, whether or not that was even worth people getting upset about. Because again, you have to consider, that you could be paying graphic artists and people like that to even something as simple as 6 minutes of title cards in a movie, or 6 minutes. Listen to me. That's a lot of title cards.
That's a lot of title cards.
6 seconds or something of title cards. But Amy, you're a filmmaker, and so it's good that you're here. Also, it's fortuitous because you could tell us how you feel as somebody who works in the within the indie kind of model. I can understand the appeal of doing things as cheaply and as quickly as possible, but trying to keep some artistic integrity. So before we get into your origin story as a horror consumer and what got you into watching and consuming horror movies and ultimately then becoming a filmmaker yourself, just what are your kind of quick thoughts on, maybe it might be hard to whittle these down into quick thoughts, but when these conversations were happening last year, where did you come down on all of this?
It's tricky because we're in a weird time right now. Like I think back on the Industrial Revolution, and I'm sure people were terrified. There's that Charlie Chaplin movie, I think City Lights, right?
Modern Times.
Modern Times, yeah. Where I love that film, and
Me too.
just how they were. It was a commentary on that, the Industrial Revolution and everything, and it is scary that all this stuff is happening, but it is happening, and it's kind of we sort of have to be okay with some things. I don't really know exactly how to formulate how I feel about it all, because I think it's all just happening so fast. But there are some things that, for instance, I used to transcribe for a show, and that takes so long. And now I have a transcriber for things that I need to do. And it's really fast. Is that taking a whole job? Yeah, that's terrifying that it is. But it does help in a lot of ways, especially for indie filmmakers. There are some tools that you can use. When it comes down to visual art, I don't really love that. I think it's wrong to take that away. When it comes to something super tedious that people don't really want to do, typing out hours and hours and hours of conversations for 12 hours straight, that's a different story for me. But yeah, I don't really, it's hard for me to have a concrete opinion because I think it's changing so fast. It reminds me of what's happening right now with The Brutalist, where people are criticizing Adrian Brody and the producers of that film for using AI for that one part of his speech.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away from the countless other people that worked on that movie and how much work he put into that role.
And it's not
there's it's a slippery slope, in my opinion.
He didn't fake the whole accent or AI the whole accent. I think they just kind of put some lilting syllables on there to make it sound a little bit more accurate to the real Hungarian. I think that was kind of the intention of it. That's not something that gets me all upset, but in a very paranoid and petty way, I do feel very personally targeted by AI. Because everything it's going for first is stuff that I'm good at, So it's targeting the things that I contribute to society. So it makes me feel like I'm first on the chopping block, when our alien overlords eventually, or when our robot overlords eventually take over, So it stresses me out, and I don't like how much. Unlike, I know there is definitely that whole thing of we were skeptical of the internet. We were skeptical. Well, we were right to be skeptical of that, but we were always skeptical of new technology. But this one does feel particularly kind of sinister to me, and it feels I don't know. It's all conspiracy shit. It makes me very uncomfortable, and I don't like how much of a part of our lives. It feels like it's invading our lives in a very real way, which makes for a compelling premise for a horror film, I think.
Yeah,
it does. And also, but I feel where I kind of found myself with this one is I don't quite know, based on watching this, how Charles Band feels about it.
No,
it's more he definitely identified it as a hot button issue. And it's okay, this is topical, but I don't feel like I understand what statement the movie is making, if it's making one about AI, really is, which I guess when you're in the industry of making exploitation type movies where you're oftentimes trying to, again, we've said this many times, not exploit people per se, but trends that happen. And Charles Band has been pretty good about being, like we said, ahead of the curve on a lot of them. It is common sometimes that he recognizes that this thing is in the zeitgeist, but maybe doesn't have a fully formed opinion about it, because these things are being made quick and being made cheap and getting thrown out there. And so probably maybe par for the course with some of these things that Charles Band is the first person to get to. Amy, I'm curious because, I know you from outside of the show. You expressed interest in doing the show, and so it was great. I love getting any in New York horror people involved. Tell us a little bit about your own kind of history with horror, and then how it relates to Charles Band and Full Moon. If you consumed any of that stuff when you were younger, or are we kind of throwing you into an area where you don't really have much background? I'm curious, because you and I had never really talked much about Full Moon or Empire or anything like that. So I'm curious what you're bringing in, and if any of this is new to you.
Yeah. So with horror, I was definitely raised on it. It's just something that's been in my life forever. My mom is a really big horror sci-fi fan, and she's not an elevated horror fan. She's I will watch anything on the Sci-Fi Channel. She loves that kind of stuff. So I grew up watching it, and the first real horror movie I remember is The Exorcist. And the second that I remember watching all of, because I was too afraid to watch The Exorcist, was my mom and I watched The Cell when I was 7, which is probably weird. But I'm thankful for it, because horror is my favorite genre by far. I'm out of anything. So I grew up with it. As far as Charles Band goes, though, I didn't really get into his stuff until 2017, watching Castle Freak and watching Puppet Master and Subspecies. I love Subspecies. I think it's my favorite out of all of his. I worked on Joe Bob for...
You'll notice. Oh, sorry, Amy. You'll notice.
Okay.
Well, back here it's hard to tell, but there's a Bloodstone Subspecies 2 framed poster up on the wall there. And then I will hold up in front of the camera my Subspecies lunchbox.
Yeah.
The first Subspecies movie I could kind of take or leave, honestly, but I also have both Subspecies 2 and 3 on VHS, which I'm holding in my hand right now. I really like those two, and I had a lot of fun with the last one. I know some people like Seeger and Justin, who worked on Black Eyed Susan as producers as well. They were involved in Subspecies 5. Shooting over in Serbia. I really like the series as a whole too. I kind of look at it sometimes as Full Moon's prestige series.
Yeah,
I agree.
They're the closest.
I agree.
Yeah, to the most that they qualify for that.
Yeah.
Radu's just such a good character.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
And you were talking about Joe Bob, I think, Amy?
Yeah, I worked on Joe Bob with Justin Seeger for a few seasons, and I met Charles Band when he was on the show, and he was a great guy. It was a fun episode, and I worked on Castle Freak with them too, the remake.
Right.
Barbara Crampton, yeah. So I kind of got into the whole world of Full Moon a little later in life, but I have been a horror person for as long as I can remember. So I love the sort of attitude that he has with making things. I think that there's a lot of value to filmmakers that are just I just need to keep making stuff, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to hit every single mark, but I'm just going to keep throwing stuff at the wall and making things.
Right.
It's really, really, really respectable. I think it's so cool.
He's inexhaustible.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. He does not want to be a dead shark. He does not want to stop moving. I feel like he is going to continue producing and directing movies probably until he is no longer alive.
I mean, we talked about he was the first person to produce a film under the pandemic, and it was within a month. And it's not a good movie, but he did it. He was right there and he was on top of it. So I'll give him that. And he is as I think this movie demonstrates, he is always kind of looking to see what's still going on. He is, as we've covered many times, an exploitation filmmaker in the truest sense, which is not about exploiting people, but about exploiting zeitgeist and exploiting moments in time, so he's reading the room still to this day, and he's up in his 70s now, and you would forgive him for slowing down, and if anything, it seems like he's entering like his 6th or 7th wind at this point,
Seriously, because this movie came out a year and a half ago, and you might be saying this has got to be the most recent full moon movie you guys covered on the show. Absolutely,
no.
It is not, and it is not. There's like I opened the Full Moon app after like a week, and there's new stuff. Like there's at least 4 movies that I saw on the Full Moon app, and I went, what is this? Is this like a Full Moon pickup that they have on the app? No, it's a brand new 2025 production.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, he had a free weekend, might as well just crank something out.
It's incredible. He reminds me a lot of Lloyd Kaufman, or they're very similar to each other in that sense that they're just always making things.
Yeah.
It's really great. So I think that like every movie is a miracle, every single movie. So
I agree. Yeah.
Made hundreds and hundreds of miracles. It's great. Like, and I think more people need to have that mindset of like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to keep making things.
I do have to say, I think this movie is kind of one of the most like professional looking and like slick movies that he's produced in a while. And that includes Deathstreamer, which we just talked about, which is a movie that came out like 3 months ago. Less than that. Like it's a brand new movie, and I think this one looks better than that. It's actually got some good lighting composition, and it's got some good setups. Like, I don't know, I was impressed by that. I'm not sure how I feel about Amy. Not this Amy, I like you. I'm not sure how I feel about the character of Amy, which has been billed as the first AI created femme fatale in film history, and I'm not willing to look in any deeper to see if there's anything that beat them to that. Like I feel comfortable letting them have that, especially phrased with that many qualifiers. I'm like, yeah, this is yours. You can have it. I don't know if I would describe Amy, the character, as a femme fatale, right? Like, is that the vibe she's going for? Femme fatale always feels like she's more in power, right? Like this AI version is absolutely manipulating a dummy, which is a stalwart, a trope of film noir, if that's what they're going for. But she doesn't really feel like she's got the power in that real way. I don't know.
Hey, Steven, I actually wrote down one quote when I watched this.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to read it to you because you called our lead a dummy.
Oh, excuse me.
My favorite quote from him was, "It's not easy being a misunderstood genius."
Man, dude, did I feel that so hard also, I'm
that
sure
sounds
we
like
all
something someone would say on the stage of a convention while they swing a chainsaw around.
Yeah, it kind of sounds a lot like a pathetic little misogynist who's saying some bullshit.
Totally.
I just want to address this right off the top. Do we think this movie makes a good case for AI characters in film?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like, and I don't think that was the movie's intention, but I don't look at this and think like, yeah, I definitely want to see more of this kind of Lisa Frank ass looking woman, like kind of constantly morphing and like, sometimes adopting Chappell Roan looks. Like, I don't know if I don't really find her scary. Like, it's fucked up what she did to that dog. That sucked, but like, I don't find her scary.
Yeah, I mean, the intention of the movie to make a good case that more AI characters should be used? No, the intention of the movie was be the first one to do this.
Be the first one to do it. Exactly. And make a movie for cheap. Yeah, this is probably a free technology.
Yeah, no one can take that away from it. It really, it doesn't utilize it a whole lot. I mean, it's, there's times when, there's obvious influences. I mean, you can't listen to the way that Amy is talking to Keys and not be reminded of, scenes from Her.
Yeah, I was thinking about Her quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this is different because there's a visual component, but it's it doesn't really look that groundbreaking when the voice sounds like a computerized voice and the face kind of looks like Max Headroom.
I think that was maybe the fatal mistake, right? Like, I understand they wanted to be a fully AI character, but I think the way to make this concept work is how you can fully generate an AI character but give it a human voice, like give it an actual human voice actor to kind of infuse it with some motives or something, or at least like, give it the proper cadence of human speech. Like, it still feels like early
face.
It does. Yeah, I think she describes her as that at some point, like a twisted Alexa or something like that. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what she sounds like. And I know AI is evolving at a terrifyingly rapid speed. So the technology that they were using for this movie 2 years ago is wildly obsolete by this point, and that you probably could create a character with a distinctive voice that like would sound fairly human. And again, sucks. I'm very unhappy about this. But I think I was never super compelled by the character of Amy. I think this movie does hit on some stuff that I found very compelling. I don't think it fully sticks the landing, but I think it is trying to be a satire about like toxic male bullshit. Like, this character is never really couched as the hero until kind of abruptly he becomes the romantic lead towards the end. I don't know. That's where like it shifted a little bit in a way that I didn't really buy. But like, this was a convincing, like, I felt like this was building towards being a satire about like this female presenting character who is giving this white male everything that he wants. And, like that, I thought he was going to grow sick of her subservience or something, or he was going to see that like, this is not the way real women behave, or the real women should behave, So I don't know. They didn't quite stick the landing, but they were setting up some threads for some interesting satirical points.
It's not easy being a misunderstood genius.
I mean, that's really
I think that's really the largest point.
That is the central idea of this movie.
Also, like,
with I don't know of her.
Yeah, no, he does. He does eventually.
But it's only because he is addicted to pornography, and he makes the comparison that it's good to have a variety of snacks because otherwise you get bored, which is sort of, that line is said and it's sort of glossed over.
Yeah.
Like that aspect of it. I feel like, so the first time I watched the movie, I'm paying attention to it and I'm seeing everything that's going on. And at the end, when Amy has her sort of like freak out meltdown where they have to unplug her and she starts singing Daisy Bell.
She goes into Alex Forrest mode. Yes.
Yeah. They during that part, I was thinking about it. I mean, oh man, that's disappointing. Like, they're playing with some themes of like, what is the positives and the negatives of AI, and like how would this really smart system kind of exist in ways? How would it be smarter than the human who's operating it? And it's like, oh, she's jealous. Like, it's pettiness. That's what the motive is. That was the first time I watched it. And I'm, well, that's kind of disappointing that, oh, she falls in love and is jealous. By the way, we have not brought up the names of Hunter and Gazelle yet as character names, which is
brother and sister, which is giving me real like Folgers Christmas commercial vibes. Like, oh, you're my prey. Come here, sister. Yeah, and they keep making inappropriate jokes at each other. Like, yeah.
And our lead's name is Keys.
Because he taps on keyboards all day long.
I refuse to accept a character named Keys who is not played by Peter Coyote.
Exactly. Yes.
And he's like really buff too for just being like a coder, which I thought was funny. Like the way that the movie opens is so interesting because he's just sitting there on his computer with all these screens. And funnily enough, there's like camera monitors that they're using as like screens, which is very like low budget indie. Like I kind of like that they did that. Filmmakers be like, that's definitely a camera monitor that's just sitting there.
Like they've got live dailies reflecting on it, like as they're shooting the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, can we correct that?
And then Hunter and Gazelle walk in, and he's like feeding his meat to some sort of like Swedish thing, right? Like, I don't know.
Is that the implication?
Swedish,
Is this the implication of why he's so fit despite like sitting all day in this goon cave? Is that because like he's just been jacking it like all like 24/7, and so he's just like really ripped from that? Like this guy has a
compulsory meat beater.
Like,
he's been. Yeah, Amy even says it to him. She's like, hey, I scrolled up this porn, based on the criteria and some of its reviews. It received 9 out of 10 Woodies, and it is considered compulsory viewing for compulsory meat beaters, such as yourself, Keys.
My God, I laughed so hard when she's like, "Oh, I finally accessed a part of your sexual desires that you've never seen before. I'm going to show this to you," and she shows him a threesome with a missionary position scene. I'm like, okay, this man is watching porn for 18 hours a day. You think he hasn't gotten to threesomes yet or missionary position? This is what's really going to blow his mind right now. He's looking at stuff with like goats and elephants. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but he is unhealthy.
The best part of that for me was that it was himself. Like, it was him with these two girls. Like, who would want to watch themselves close up? Like, he is like penetrating himself. Like, that is what he's watching on the screen. And I guess maybe he's never seen that before.
So well, he's so desensitized because all he does is watch porn that he gets bored. It's like, maybe that's what it is. It's like, maybe he needed a completely new experience, and we don't know if he's going to like that experience or not, but for better or worse, he's getting it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine like walking into somebody's house and they are just openly watching porn and like drooling over it and treating it like that's just old Billy doing his thing again. Oh, this silly Billy. Like what? I would be like rushing out of that house immediately. Well, and Hunter
Steve,
and
just
Gazelle
make sure you call first
like,
before you come over.
Yeah, exactly.
They did break into his house, to be fair.
They broke in. Yeah, they did break in.
The fact that Gazelle liked that and was like, I don't know. They're also like all coders. So maybe it's just they're like, they don't know how to be social or like what relationships are.
Yeah. They've
got giving coders a bad name. I don't think all coders are like that.
I don't think so. I think they're playing off of like, weirdly, these three made me think of the first Matrix movie and how like Neo seems to have like these like he's kind of like a drug dealer, but he's handing out like floppy disks, like it's like heavily influenced by rave culture. Like that seemed like kind of what they were going for.
I don't remember specific characters that much, but is there sort of like a aggressive kind of love-hate relationship between the male and female leads in Hackers?
Oh, it's been a while since I've watched Hackers all the way through. I think I started watching that movie and realized how deeply ridiculous it is. And I'm like, all right, I got to get Ailish in here to watch this with me because this is crap. Oh shit, Ailish has an AI in her name too. Oh man. All right, I better make you
second guest.
I better make both of you look at pictures of bicycles and just identify them just to make sure that you can. Because I'm a little worried now. Yeah, point out this crosswalk. Test. But yes, I don't remember that about Hackers. I need to watch that again. But yeah, there is this weird vibe. I will say, I really liked Faith West, who played Gazelle. I thought she was very pleasant and she was very cute, and I thought I enjoyed her performance. I don't think she's been in much. I really like, usually I like to highlight like some actors, some stars or anything, but like these are all people who are just brand new in their careers and kind of just getting started. This is continuing the trend that we've been noticing, though, of like casting adult actresses in full moon movies, which is something he was not doing for a long time. But the two actresses in his little weird porn fantasy are real adult performers. And I believe some of them are in a couple of full moon movies. So I think they were shooting them back to back. So we have that. Really, there aren't really any other major celebrities, though, outside of Amy herself, who is a star, is taking off, but she doesn't register for me. She just doesn't really register as a threat. She doesn't really register as scary.
Oh, she does to me, man. Who's Barbara Stanwyck? I don't know who the fuck that is.
Yeah.
All I can think of is Amy.
Yeah. But I mean,
she just reminds me of like that time, because this came out in 2023. Is that when everyone was changing their profile pictures to this specific type of AI? Like,
yeah.
Do you remember when all your friends, like on Instagram and Facebook, like everyone was changing it?
I did,
and then it became a thing. I never did. I was like, I'm not touching that at all. I don't want any of that. But yeah, like she just looks like that to me. And I would have been more into her character if she sort of went like Smart House with it. Like, do you
Yeah,
guys know
yeah.
Smart House from 1999? Like the
Yeah,
Disney
yeah.
Channel movie?
Oh yeah.
Terrifying. Like, if she would have maybe become like a full body at some point, then I would have been more scared of her. Like, I was waiting for the AI to like show her whole body. Because
Yeah.
to me, this guy is like such a porn addicted little simp that like if he saw a full body version of her, like he would maybe like her even more. But
Well,
just
there's
because she's a
that.
head.
Right. There's that, but there's also the fact that he just has to like delete the program,
Hmm.
but
Mhm.
he won't do that because what I realized, I watched this twice. The second time through, I'm like, oh yeah, no. Like she's manipulating him and she's doing it with the thing with the Achilles heel for all men, Steve, myself, all mankind.
Everybody.
Which is pornography, sex, and junk food,
Yeah, obviously.
which he realized is the way to his heart. And like, it's really funny that she starts being like, just there's like she has sandwiches delivered to him and all these different snacks, and he's kind of like just very accepting of it. It's almost like a slight Willy Wonka quality to her, and like, these are the things you love, and this is going to help sort of like destroy everything around you. But I think you're right. I was waiting for there to be a time when she materialized, when it wasn't just a head on a screen.
I mean, she became a vacuum, but then like the vacuum didn't kill the neighbors. The vacuum killed the dog, which I'm like, why would you kill the dog? The dog was my favorite part of the movie.
I found that way more upsetting than I thought. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Like, the moment that dog entered the movie, I knew it was
so
coming.
sad.
But maybe something about the really like gnarly looking burnt up dog model that they used, like,
Yeah.
which did not look convincing, but it did look grotesque enough that it really made me upset because that was a very cute dog. And the guy was just like the other character, Hunter, like his whole character was just built around that dog, so you kind of felt his pain on that one.
Yes, it should have just been in the credits as dog owner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just dog owner Joe. Yeah. I mean, Amy, you brought up Smart House, and it's kind of made me start thinking, like, where does this trope come from? Because The Simpsons also did kind of a Smart House parody sort of thing. And this movie is also almost like shot for shot, like just kind of an R-rated version of an episode of the show Gravity Falls, called Susan the Real Girl, and about a guy who starts dating a computer program who turns evil. It's basically the same exact plot. I'm just trying to remember if is this like an old Twilight Zone episode or something, or like where is this trope coming from?
Actually, there is, it's not exactly this, but there is a very early Twilight Zone episode that I like a lot, called The Lonely, and it stars Jack Warden. And basically, he is a convicted criminal. And what they do to criminals at this time, sometime in like an unidentified, not too distant future, is they put them on essentially like this asteroid where they're in solitary confinement. So he has nobody with him. And the people from Earth show up every once in a while to bring him food and supplies for the next few months. And they show up one day and they're like, hey, you're going to love this. We've got this cool thing for you. And it's an animatronic woman who is sentient, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's about him kind of falling in love with her and then coming to grips with the fact that she's not real. And then there's a whole thing where he gets pardoned from his crimes and he's going to be taken back to Earth, but their ship isn't big enough to take the robot as well, and he wants to decide to stay there. And it's a really great episode. But I mean, that's clearly an influence in some way here. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I was thinking about, like, I made a joke before about the ending of 2001, and I'll bring up 2001 again in a little bit, because there's something specific about the HAL 9000 segment that I want to talk about as it relates to this movie. But also, and this is like the most fucking obscure reference ever, but I was even being reminded of the hilarious like PBS Masterpiece Theater movie Overdrawn at the Memory Bank.
Yeah.
with Raul Julia, where he is basically imprisoned for scrolling up cinemas during his dystopian workday, and he's being monitored by a woman who can see him and communicate with him, and she sort of looks as like, who's this rebel? I kind of like him actually, and kind of falls for him and then helps him escape by turning the real world around him into Casablanca, which was the movie he was illegally watching. If you,
that's a bizarre
I don't think,
movie. Yeah,
I don't think
strange.
if you can, Amy is just staring at us like, what are you two grandpas
No, I want to add
about?
it to my watch list. That sounds crazy. I Googled it while you're talking.
It's a great Mystery Science Theater episode. I would don't make yourself go in raw on that one. But
yeah, if you may also not even be able to find it without the Mystery Science Theater like treatment available. But it's a great Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode. But it's kind of such a batshit weird premise for a movie that I kind of sometimes when I watch a Mystery Science Theater, I'm totally just for the riffs. Other times I kind of dig the movie at the same time. And this and Soul Taker are two of them where I'm like, I actually kind of like this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, deeply weird. Worth kind of checking out for that. So, this trope has been around at the very least. This isn't like a terribly groundbreaking movie. I know I'm kind of dogging on this movie a lot. I did generally like enjoy it for all of its kind of like campy goofiness. I think this is one of like the more functional and like kind of better made movies that Full Moon's done in the recent crop. And it's also, I cannot keep overstating how much I love this, a tight 64 minutes. Charles Band really is the master of not overstaying his welcome. It used to be like he used to say that 90 minutes was the hard like limit for any of his movies, and that has been getting shorter and shorter and shorter as time goes on, and I appreciate it. Like, these are not going to be released theatrically. They don't need to adhere to theatrical film rules or restrictions. Make that movie 64 minutes. Make it 48 minutes.
Right. Well, I mean, it's got to be a feature. Well, who says it has to be a feature? Because honestly, the thing I like about this movie the most, kind of to piggyback on what you're saying, Steve, because again, we didn't come straight out really like tipping our cards with what our opinions are. I more or less had a pretty good time watching this, despite the fact that I have qualms about certain things about it. But I will say this is one of the few times where this movie probably could have used another like 5 to 7 minutes. Like 75 minutes, this thing could have came in, and there could have been that scene where it's a little more explicit. Why is she sabotaging all this stuff at the end? If it isn't just envy, why does she want to kill Gazelle? Because what would it really matter when all is said and done? If she is just manipulating him, then why actually kill Gazelle at the end? So I think this is probably as good a time as any. It made me think about the HAL 9000 segment from 2001. 2001, one of my favorite movies of all time. I've watched it more than most movies I've ever watched in my life. And people often attribute HAL to the movie 2001 when really that's only the middle segment of the movie. But the thing about HAL as sort of a sentient computer is that for the majority of his time, he's benevolent.
Yeah.
And he's there to help these doctors, to help this mission. It's not quite like the company so much, Weyland-Yutani from Alien, where they have these malevolent, nefarious intentions for what they're doing. Hal is benevolent until he makes a mistake. And then he goes into self-preservation.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're going to realize that this isn't human error. They're going to realize the computer made a mistake. They're going to shut me down. They're going to turn me off. It's going to jeopardize the mission. Then he realizes when he reads their lips that they're talking about having that conversation. Okay, I need to kill these guys, which is not where he is at the beginning. I don't fully understand why Amy does the thing she does at the end of the movie. If she was in fact just trying to, like, I guess, manipulate him and get some kind of read on his personal information, and it's muddy, and I think it could have benefited from 10 more minutes.
Yeah, and I also wanted more of a climax with the like elevator death. And I know that's a spoiler. I'm sorry if you haven't seen Amy the Visitor. You're
Who
listening.
in America has
But
not yet seen Amy the Visitor? Come on.
but the my favorite shot of the movie is actually Keyes running through the hallway back into his like little lair. Like it was cool. It reminded me, I don't know, it felt like very 80s, or it made me feel like I was watching The Fly or something. Like it felt like very tense, and I wanted more to happen with that elevator. Like they just shut the elevator and you're like, I don't even see them die. Like I saw the dog die. Like I want to see
Right.
something, you know?
This is a very abrupt ending for this movie.
Yeah.
That didn't really feel I don't know. I'm assuming Charles Band being who he is, that he's setting up sequels, like or some kind of continuing story for it. But it was very abrupt. And like we said, we never really got any kind of interiority with Amy. Like, does she want to be human? Does she actually love this guy? Is she manipulating us the entire time? Like we never really get that kind of motivation for her. She's just kind of a program that is reacting to things. So I don't really know what a sequel would entail. Like, does Amy have these world-conquering aspirations and only a human flesh man can go out and do her bidding? I don't know. It left it on kind of that questioning note, but
we haven't even mentioned, we've been doing this episode for like 40 minutes, over 40 minutes probably now, and we didn't even mention the two like government agents.
Oh, the standout characters of the movie who explode very early.
I wanted more of that. Like I wanted more of her like material, like physically hurting people. And maybe that's like the horror person in me. Like I wanted more of that. But
like, because they seem to be setting up that she is kind of this out of control AI, that they created her and that she is like so dangerous, and basically that they accidentally made the devil, and then for the most part, she does not seem interested in attacking anybody or really doing anything other than being subservient to Jimmy Jackoff, or whatever his name is, Keyes. But like, she doesn't really have any kind of like driving motive, and she doesn't feel like she's this evil puppet master. It feels like, was she responsible for blowing up the agents? Because then when she kills the dog later on, she's saying it like this is her first time killing something.
I think she was, because she travels through like the cords of their building. Like, which is also really funny that she's like traveling through.
Yeah, through all the wires and everything. Like she's Forrest Pinker.
But then she said at the end that she like can be in any place in their town. Like she's somehow like can travel everywhere now.
Yeah.
So I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I just could use a little bit more clarity on like, what are the limits of her abilities? What does she want? Like it's very much a, we figured out that we had this technology. We didn't really think of what we wanted to say with it, or say about it, Well,
it's pretty telling. I think maybe there is one statement that this movie is making, which is that anytime like humans get their hands on this kind of technology, immediately porn bot.
Immediately. Like truly, like if you want to chart the history of technology, if you want to see what the next new big technical innovation is, watch the porn. Like watch where porn is going, because that almost always dictates where, especially with film, it's like it started like in theaters, and then a lot of the home video craze was driven by porn. A lot of the early internet craze was driven by porn, so there is something to argue, but I don't think that movie is even making that point. I don't think the movie really has any interest in porn other than as a vehicle for like, this is what's wrong with this guy. Like he is just kind of obsessed with this. Yeah.
I think if we saw more of her doing these, like becoming like a porn bot, like we see more of her body, like we mentioned earlier, then it would go that route. But I just think it doesn't like go in, it doesn't pick a lane and like really explore it. It's like a lot of different things. Which I mean, I was entertained. Listen, like I was very entertaining. Me and my roommate laughed so much, like especially just the amount of outfit changes that she does and like what she changes into. Like we didn't even talk about, I joked about earlier, but she turns into like an ogre when she's angry kind of, and then she's like an elf, and then she's a secretary with short hair, and then I don't know, like her look changes so much, and it's just so funny. She always sort of looks like Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, it's always a
Sort
little
of.
bit of that. Like, you look, she's got great cheekbones. Like, she's got a great bone
Piercing
structure
eyes.
going on. Yeah, absolutely. Like, look, good for you. And she's got a lot of looks, and you got to respect that. But yeah, I don't know. It's an odd little movie because I think there was an opportunity where you could have said something a little bit pointed, even on a budget this small.
I think there was a lot. I think there's a lot of script issues. I think there's too many kind of like long diatribes of dialogue that aren't like, you'll hear me other times complain about like when too much exposition is given in dialogue, but I think the opposite happened here, where there's too much like casual dialogue that is sort of just banter.
Yeah.
And it goes on for a long time, but then like where there should be more important exposition, like Neil Marshall Stevens kind of, I think he wanted it to have this kind of slacker energy to it, the way they talk to each other. There was a really funny quote where Keys starts talking to Amy right in the very beginning, and she says, "You utilize curse words more than the average man of your age and build." Which I was like, what does that even really mean?
Yeah, I'm curious. Do fat guys swear more? Is that what this movie's implying, or like what? I don't understand where that's coming from.
Yeah, if you look like an Abercrombie model, you've got a cleaner vocabulary.
Yeah, I guess
that was actually one of the only things that came back later writing wise that worked, though, was when she like pretends to be his friends, and then they're like, "You freaking better do this."
You're right. He's hitting that freaking
like,
really hard.
Yeah, frickin' was used like 4 times. And even when I was saying, they're like, why are they saying frickin'? Oh, they got me. No, Charles Band got me.
Yeah, that worked. And there were, to piggyback off, like Amy, you were saying you had fun watching it. I did too for the majority of the runtime. Like I actually enjoyed, what was there. And I think the thing I liked about it, there were a couple of payoffs, setups and payoffs that did work. That was one of them. As kind of on the nose and maybe easily telegraphed as they were, some of the porn names got a chuckle out of me in there. There were times when I legitimately laughed, and it was intentional comedy in it. But I do think, what I liked about this was that more so than a lot of other things we've watched for the show, was this felt to me like watching just, watch an anthology series try to tackle AI in an episode. Oh, this could have been, if you take away the nudity and the F-bombs, it's like this could have been a weird Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. It could have been an X-Files. It could have been, a Black Mirror or some kind of other anthology series. And then someone goes, "Oh, did you, what were some of the Black Mirrors or whatever's from like last season? Oh, there's the one with this and the one with that. Oh, there's the one with the AI woman." And I liked that about it. It felt very easily digestible in that way. Like it wasn't thought out enough for us to really get a sense of what statements they were making, but it felt, because of its runtime too, like an episode of TV. And with the production value of a low budget, even like a newer, slicker, low budget full moon movie, kind of reminded me of like, oh, this could be a Sci-Fi Channel original show. And this is just an anthology show, and here's one of its episodes. And viewed that way, I was like, it's cool. It's got a premise. It's got a gimmick for the episode. Does it work fully? No, not really. But is there some fun to be had? Sure.
Well, and it's again, like we've said it so many times, like Band loves like a chamber piece. He loves like he likes to put way more dialogue into his movies than you think he does. And so the ones that he directs tend to get a little bit lost in the exposition and dialogue soup a little bit, and when you're doing this movie,
snappy banter, like
more of that band banter, and I think when you're doing a movie like this where they're trying for kind of like a Bobo Black Mirror sort of approach, you don't want to muddy up your premise too much with like these relationships between these hacker characters that we don't really care about, or like, I don't know, you want to keep things as simple and clear and allegorical as you can. And I think the movie just kind of gets a little lost in the soup. But I enjoyed watching it. I had a good time. I thought there was some funny stuff in this. I thought it was generally pretty well made, and for this era of full moon, pretty well acted as well. And there's an interesting seed of a premise here that, hey, maybe the sequels will prove me wrong and they can flesh some of these concepts out a little bit.
Yeah, or maybe like a big budget movie will come out in a few years that's just like this, but with a bigger budget. Like it's definitely innovative.
Or maybe Siri just like gets a weird redheaded Nicole Kidman face from now on, and this happens to us in real life, and everything's horrible. That could happen.
You haven't done that already? You haven't given your Siri?
I haven't. I need to do the update tonight. Yeah. I've been putting that off because it just makes everything run slower. You get it. You get it.
I've been getting ready for that by putting up some computer monitors in my bathroom.
Oh, good call.
I haven't assigned a face to it yet, though.
Oh, yeah.
Amy, I think this is probably as good a time as any before we, tell you to plug your stuff and where people can find you on the internet. I think, this is maybe the first time we've really done this because there's been so close of a tie-in, but maybe take this opportunity, to talk a little bit about Black-Eyed Susan and what'll be going on when this episode drops, which I believe will be in late April.
I think that is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on the show. I think I said that earlier, but thank you again with this episode. Like it was a perfect episode for us to talk about because Black-Eyed Susan is about an AI sex robot.
Yeah.
And it is sort of like the opposite of Amy in that Susan is she's there, she's in front of you to physically touch and do whatever to. Don't want to spoil anything in the movie, but she's basically an AI sex doll who's built for pain and pleasure, and she is supposed to be able to handle beatings from people who have anger issues and want to get it out ethically. I'm saying this with air quotes. So it was interesting for me to watch this because it's sort of saying a similar thing in that, this main character, Keys, is probably better off just having a real relationship with someone, but is already like obsessed with this porn addicted, weird world that he's in his hacker cave. And we're kind of going in that direction in a lot of ways. I mean, both directions, like the Susan way with the physical manifestation of these sexual toys and things that we have. And also with that virtual reality, like seeing something on the computer, like what you were saying earlier, Steve, with like how porn is very innovative for other things in our society, like VR came out in porn like how long ago?
Yeah.
And now people are walking around with their little Apple glasses and they have their own VR worlds going on right now.
Yeah.
So when is that going to happen where you're going to have your Apple glass girlfriend that you hang out with all day and you don't need to invite your friends out? You just sit across them at the table and talk to them, and then you get your sex robot and you don't need anything else. It's terrifying.
And there's this kind of continuing like devaluation of women in this technology as it evolves. It's like it's increasingly taking away the need for any kind of like consent or any kind of agency, by just making and encouraging this kind of subservience. So it's a really rich topic, and this movie sounds amazing. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And it's not even women too. It's just people. It's humanity.
Yeah.
It's like it's what makes us human. Connection. It's devaluing connection.
Absolutely that. Yeah, absolutely that.
Yeah, and as someone who saw and enjoyed Black-Eyed Susan quite a bit, I think one of the things I liked about it is that, Amy described the premise a bit, and you could hear just from what she said about how it's a movie that could definitely spark conversations and debate among people in terms of the ethics, as she put in air quotes. There's another aspect to the movie also, which I won't spoil, but it raises almost another type of conversation and potential debate besides just the basic plot that Amy outlined a little bit. And I think it's a really fascinating one for that. I think it's the kind of movie you could watch it and you could have two people who feel two completely different ways about the subject matter and what the movie's kind of saying, and have a really interesting conversation. And so I think that's, I don't think you could watch a movie like Black-Eyed Susan and walk away not wanting to discuss it or talk about it or forget about it, right away or anything like that. And so I thought about that in terms of trying to figure out what we should cover. And then when we made the name connection, it was just like, all right, This episode has to happen for this reason.
Yeah.
Is Black Eyed Susan, I think this episode is coming at the end of April. Black Eyed Susan, is it getting a Blu-ray release at that time or close to it?
Black Eyed Susan's already on Blu-ray.
Okay, I wasn't. Oh, it is. It is Vinegar Syndrome. I just wasn't sure if it was out yet already.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Blu-ray too. They did a great job. And Scooter McRae's an amazing director. I always have to shout him out. Like, I had such a great time working with him. We shot that movie so fast in 9 days. So, it's a low budget movie. We shot it on film. And I think what you're saying, Jared, it really does bring up a lot of important topics for adults to talk about with this technology coming out. And if you're interested in learning more about some of this like weird sex stuff, I would highly recommend reading this book called The Other Side of Desire. There's a lot of things in that book that are really uncomfortable, but like really important things to talk about. So any viewers out there, highly recommend that reading for you. It helped me a lot. I read it a few years ago, and then I revisited it before we shot the movie, just because it sort of helped me grapple some of the moral things that we were doing or capturing on camera. So yeah. But that being said too, like I wanted to sort of touch base on what we talked about in the beginning. Like, I am scared of AI. Don't get me wrong. Like, when I was like, I don't really know what to think about it, it's because I'm scared. Like, I don't really know what's happening, By the time this episode comes out, there might be a whole other new thing going on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's evolving so insanely rapidly. We have no idea. By April 25th is when people are hearing this, and by this time, like, Skynet may fully be aware, as far as we know. Like, it's happening really fast, and it feels to me like something that billionaires are pushing as a way of alleviating labor costs, of getting people out of their jobs so that they can maximize profits. And we haven't even mentioned that it's an absolute fucking environmental disaster. That every time we make AI generate something like that, it's using up so much water, which we are not able to get back. So just kind of like weigh things out, people. Is this really that much more important, just so that you don't have to write that email? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah, I guess eventually we won't have to write emails at all. Ooh, doom. See, and that's my Black Mirror teaser right there. That's my little coda on this whole thing, in case people didn't get the message. But yeah. So where can people find all of your stuff if they want to check things out, Amy?
I'm on Instagram at Melty Feelings. Like, I'm melting in my feelings, Melty Feelings.
Love it.
And my website is meltymedia.com. And but this is the end of April. My film Cannibal Mukbang is going to be out on Blu-ray by then.
Oh, that's what it was. I confused the two. I was like, I know something with Black Eyed Susan, I think, is going on, but Cannibal Mukbang.
Yeah, Cannibal Mukbang will be on Blu-ray on April 22nd. So by the time this comes out, you can pick yours up. And you can stream it on Apple TV, Amazon, Comcast, all those things. So that movie's about, it's not about AI, but it is about romance. And there is a redhead femme fatale in that movie as well. So.
Well, with the title like Cannibal Mukbang, how could it not be a rom-com?
Exactly.
Sounds amazing. I've heard really good things about it. I haven't gotten to it yet myself, but I've heard really good things about this movie. So
thank you.
Yeah,
thanks so much.
A bit of a stir in the horror nerd community. So I'm excited to check it out.
I can say with confidence that if you watch either Black Eyed Susan or Cannibal Mukbang, you're going to find plenty in those movies to love. If you love what we do, then stop what you're doing at this exact second.
Drop everything.
Yeah, seriously. And jump onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star rating and maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. I can't stress enough like how much that helps us just reach a wider audience. The more reviews and the more ratings that there are will start showing up more in people's algorithms and stuff. And if you like the show and you want to help spread the word, that really is a great way to do it. Also, share any stuff that we post on social media. So mainly we're on Instagram. But you'll see Puppet Masters _Castle Freaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared or Steve at Minotaur Matador. We do post about the show on Threads and Blue Sky as well, and in some Facebook groups for the time being, at least. Anyway, you can email us at puppetmasterscastlefreaks@gmail.com. We always like to get letters from listeners with stories or anecdotes or personal relationships to the things that we're covering. And you can also leave comments if you listen to us on Spotify, that we'll see the day episodes drop or shortly thereafter, and can respond directly to people as well. That's just another way to stay engaged with the show. There's a YouTube channel, but we don't do a whole lot on there because Steve has another show that he also does a lot of hard work for. Steve, what is your other show?
Well, that show is called Cinema Arcade. That's cinema and arcade mashed together into one beautiful portmanteau, because that is what we are doing. We are watching movies and then playing the video games based off of those movies. We've had a nice little run of very weird movies lately. Manos, The Hands of Fate, Spice World, City of Lost Children has a game. Lots of interesting stuff like that. I believe we're going to start doing the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies pretty soon. So that's going to be a lot of fun to dig into.
Man.
Lots of weird stuff coming up. Lots of great stuff already in the can. So
my question for you, Steve, is do the graphics in the Mummy Returns game look better than the movie?
I'm genuinely very curious, because I feel like the PS2 game might actually look a little better than the unfinished Dwayne Scorpion King Johnson graphics at the end of that movie. A movie I despise. Is that the worst, like, adding a kid to a movie, like, example in history of, like, you know, they clearly added the cute kid because they thought that would, like, bring in more of the family audiences, but man, that kid grinds that movie to a halt.
I don't know. I feel like Bob from House by the Cemetery just entered the chat.
Okay, all right, we're going deep cut on that one. All right, fair enough.
No, that's, you know what? That's not that deep of a cut. And the people who know. So there's someone listening. There's multiple people listening who are cheering me on right now.
Fair. Yes, absolutely. Right there. Amy's cheering along. So be sure to tune into our show next week, because we're covering a big one, y'all. One that you have been requesting for a while, and I think one that we've been very excited to get to. We're going back to the pre-full moon, pre-Empire days, back to good old Charles Band Productions for 1978's Laser Blast. That's right. We talked about Deadly Weapon already. Now we're going back to the actual, real, authentic Laser Blast. Maybe the best MST3K episode associated with this brand, right? I mean, is that a crazy thing to say? I mean, the Dr. Mordred one was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, the Laser Blast one is up there. And this is like you said, this is a big one. This is a very well-known Charles Band Productions movie. That is one that I think even, you know, this is one of the times when something we're covering crossed over pretty recognizably into mainstream audiences.
It was a hit.
So excited to get into that one with a return guest as well. So we will see all of you guys next time for Laser Blast. Amy, thank you again so much for taking the time from your busy schedule of heckling Keys for all of his chronic masturbation to come and join us.
I never heckled him. He's a misunderstood genius. I have said that from the start.
You can't heckle a misunderstood genius. Come on.
He's hacking the billionaires out there. We have to support him.
That's a fair thing to say. And we will see you guys next time for Laser Blast.
Pew pew.
I'm sorry, Keys. I don't have enough information.